record is the fourth choice.
Okay, and thank you so much for the help, guys. We are recording now. So thanks. So at this point then, we'll start with our meeting. And Zenab, if you would, please just give some opening comments.
Yeah, I'm very excited to hear the rest of the presentation. This Zoom meeting is about the team-based approach to achieve certification goals. So I'm giving you the time now, Tony, to start your presentation.
Thank you so much, Zenab. So I want to start by saying this, is that you may be wondering how this meeting came to be. I attended a meeting recently that Zenab put together, having invited Holly Mickelson to lead a discussion on strategies, again, to prepare for exam success. And I was so impressed with the fact that Zenab was able to secure somebody like Holly Mickelson, and all the ideas that Holly presented were so wonderful to listen to. I'd never heard her give that type of presentation before, so such a privilege for me. And I walked away from that meeting feeling as if there's a lot of opportunity to help the Arabic-speaking interpreters achieve their certification goals. So I reached out to Zenab and I said, you know, it'd be nice for us to join forces and to help out the Arabic-speaking interpreter community. And so that's in part how the meeting came to be. Also, I received a lot of encouragement from Virginia Valencia and Brad from Interpretrain, who are joining us this evening as well. So that perhaps is the primary reason why this meeting is coming to pass. And certainly we can put together teams, again, for not only the Arabic, but also Spanish speaking and other languages as well. So I want to start by saying good evening to everyone. Buenas tardes, masal hayer. I want to say shukran to all the Arabic interpreters that are joining us. And Muslims all over the world are observing Ramadan at this time of year. So to all of our Muslim friends who are joining us, I want to say Ramadan Mubarak. And we're going to be focused this evening then on a team-based approach to achieving certification goals. And your coaches are going to be myself, Tony Valle, and Zenab Khouder. I'm going to provide a brief overview of the 3 methods to achieving certification that I've been able to identify, and we're going to start with the lone soldier. And before I do, I just want to give you an idea of my qualifications as well. In 2017, I achieved state certification by the Judicial Council. I'm a state certified court interpreter. In 2018, I achieved medical certification through CCHI. In 2019, I achieved the highest scores on the Defense Language Proficiency Test. It was a test developed by the Department of Defense to certify interpreters. It's the DLPT-5 that I took. In 2020, I plan for success on the federal written exam, and in 2021, I plan to sit for the oral exam, and it's important for you to know that I have my own goals just as well as you do. I've achieved my bachelor's degree in English at California State University, San Marcos. You have my email address. I also lead the Facebook forum called the Resource Center for Certified Interpreters. As of today, we have 1,650 members, a milestone that I'm so proud of. And for these 3 years, this forum has been focused on encouraging colleagues to achieve their certification goals. So this has been a passion of mine from the outset. And so this is just simply another extension of that passion. I'm also going to provide for you my personal timeline. This is what I've been able to do in this time frame. I completed a court interpreting program in 2016. In the summer of 2016, that summer, I launched the team-based approach with some colleagues. And the idea was born out of the fact that I took the state exam a couple of times and I wasn't experiencing success. So I wanted to come up with a method that I thought would be effective for me to achieve my goals. And that's what led to the creation of the team-based approach. I also gained some experience serving as an interpreter in immigration court. I've led training events for both trans-interpreting and Interpretrain. I achieved state certification in September of 2017, as I mentioned. I've been serving the courts in San Bernardino as an intermittent interpreter, which means an on-call interpreter. So I serve the courts as an interpreter. And I'm currently leading a team right now called the Federal Vanquishers team. We're focused on preparing for the written exam. And already 2 of my team members achieved their goals for the written exam. So this idea has worked for those seeking state as well as federal certification, at least the first part of it. And at this point, I'd like Zenab also to give her qualifications as well.
Thank you, Tony. I started in 2000 as an approved court interpreter in Austin, Texas. 2016, I became provisionally qualified by the Superior Court of California. 2017, I got approved by the federal courts as a language skilled interpreter. And then also in 2017, I received my certification in the core CCHI as a medical interpreter. 2019, I got certified by the state of Illinois for the Supreme Court, and I started also my YouTube training channel. 2020, I got certified by the state of Arizona Supreme Court, and I was so thrilled to receive my CHIA Interpretation Award in 2020, and I thank all my colleagues that nominated me for this award. I'm an active member of both ATA and NAGIT, and you can see in this slide my YouTube channel information, my email, and my LinkedIn if you need. Tony, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Zenab, for that introduction. And now, all right. So now I'm just simply going to review with you what are the objectives for this evening's presentation. First of all, to define the team-based approach so that you know exactly what that word means and what it entails. To ensure that each one of you knows what your obligation will be to your team, to your coaches, and to yourselves. To ensure that we will create teams who share a common exam focus and then comparable strengths as well. The idea that within, and I would just simply ask that everyone mute themselves. I'm hearing some background noise come in, so please mute yourself. To ensure that we will create teams who share a common exam focus and comparable strengths. To ensure that only those who can truly commit to a long-term focus on exam success will join this effort. To assure you that your coaches remain vested in your team success, and to assure you that both coaches have walked in your shoes. And I think that's important because we want you to know that, that we empathize with whatever challenges that you face. We've likely encountered them as well. And we don't come from the perspective of that at this stage you should know this, or at this stage you should be doing this. What we're going to do is we're going to work wherever you're at to help you achieve your goals and to help you overcome whatever your challenges for certification are. Now, I've identified 3 methods to exam preparation, and I start with the lone soldier approach. And every single one of us starts our interpreting career as a lone soldier. This is our basic training period, our boot camp phase. So every single one of us has to learn the basics and the mechanics of interpreting: sight, simultaneous, consecutive. We should be learning note-taking as well as part of that basic training, foundational training. Now, the thing is that a lot of interpreters not only start as lone soldiers, but they continue throughout, meaning that they try to go into their exam certification as a lone soldier, meaning that they are working by themselves or spending most of their time by themselves. And my question then becomes this: what happens if you go in to take the exam as a lone soldier and you don't achieve your objective? You fail the exam, right? And my presentation is on a very slow delay here. So what happens when that lone soldier approach does not succeed? Do you raise the white flag of surrender? Well, I hope not, because there is certainly another method that you should consider before you do. And by the way, I do know a lot of interpreter colleagues who do attempt to pass the exam as a lone soldier. They're not successful, but they just keep working, if you will, using that approach and not trying a different approach. And then having taken the exam multiple times, unfortunately, many colleagues do at a certain point give up. And at the very least, before giving up on yourself as a lone soldier, this brings me to the next method, which is what I call the dynamic duo. Some people call it a study buddy approach. The reason I call it a dynamic duo is that with this method, I'm convinced that every Robin out there is trying to find their perfect Batman. What do I mean? They're trying to find their hero that is going to match them perfectly, match their study schedule, their learning style. There's going to be a perfect complement so that their language strength is going to be diametrically opposite of their own. And if I know people who have, made this work and have achieved success this way, and certainly I believe it does share some benefits over just the lone soldier approach. But here's how I like to think of it, is that the team-based approach, you're taking the best of both worlds. You're combining the best of the lone soldier, where you're spending some time continuing to work on your skill development, on your vocabulary building, on your note-taking skills and other skills that you're going to need. And you're getting the feedback, not just from one partner, but now from multiple partners. So imagine that you've got, let's say, interpreter A, B, C, D, and E. Interpreter A, the guys, let's say, are English dominant. Let's say that the gals are Arabic or Spanish or French dominant. So now you have the possibility of interpreters A and C getting together with interpreter B for a team practice session, and with interpreter A delivering a rendition and interpreters B and C listening and providing feedback, and then alternating, so that everyone has an opportunity then to interpret, to receive feedback from their interpreter colleagues, and then to develop their own listening skills and their skills as an evaluator. And you learn from each transaction, if you will, whether you're interpreting and you're getting feedback, or you're listening and providing feedback, you continue to build your skills using that team-based approach. And my question for you then is simply this. If you don't pass the state exam or the federal, whatever it might be, what is the cost of failure for the state exam? And at this point, if somebody wants to unmute themselves and just let me know, when you fail exam, what's the initial cost of failure?
Well, for me, Tony, is disappointment simply because I failed at 79%, at 78%,
right,
and at 78.5%. So it's a different type of disappointment because I was about 1.5 to 2 points below the bar.
yes,
But I also came to the realization that without this team, body approach, or without having a partner, I might or I might not be able to pass that
right,
bar, which is why I consider your
okay.
approach something unique and
Okay.
beneficial for me.
Very good. Thank you for that response, Miha. Now, let me ask you a specific question. Financially, what's the cost every time that you take a state exam and you fail it? What's the cost, the financial cost?
It's very simple. You're not in the database, and people are not going to reach out to you, from a state perspective.
Okay.
Now, I am in that federal database that Zenab mentioned in the beginning since 2000. Obviously, I am there, but the capability and the ability to be in that database for me here in Chicago is not only Chicago, it's at least Indiana, Iowa, etc. And is the capability to be able to set up my own fees. At that point, being certified, being in that database, you can set up your fees. And I believe that, attorneys, judges, people from your league are going to start looking at you in a different way.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Mihai. So Mihai provided us with a very, very comprehensive response to the question, which is great. What I wanted to focus on is that when I ask people this question, what's the cost? The most immediate answer that I get is this. Well, Tony, the state exam cost me $350, so I'm out $350, right? But I would say that the cost is much more than that, and Mihai actually did focus on that, and he's talking about lost opportunity cost, right? If, at least in California, if you're not a certified court interpreter, you're not going to be able to interpret in the courts, right? And so the question is this: how much is a full-time court interpreter paid in Southern California? I would say it's approaching $80,000 plus benefits. It's a 6-month period from the time that you take the exam to the time that you get the notice to the time you get your badge. So if you divide, let's say, even to use a simple number, 100,000, every time you fail the exam, it's a lost opportunity cost of at least 50,000, right? At least. And then the investment in classes and materials that did not produce results. The emotional cost that Mihai mentioned, he started off with that, so a very powerful one, the disappointment, telling friends and family members that once again, unfortunately, I just didn't make it this time. And then the cost of giving up, right? So those costs are extremely high. I think we would all agree with that. All right, and so I just want to explore with you some reasons for exam failure. This is not a comprehensive list. These are just some of the reasons why I've come up with based on my experience in talking with exam candidates who didn't fail the exam, is that there was no strategy applied to exam preparation. And that's exactly what the team-based approach is all about. It's applying a strategy towards preparing for exam success. So no strategy is a reason for exam failure. There's inadequate allocation of time given for each modality. When I speak with a lot of interpreters, they even, let's say they might be focused more on consecutive because they feel that it's an area of weakness for them. But as Mihai said, or others have said, well, I just missed passing the exam over here by 1 point in sight, or 1 point in consecutive, or 1 point in simultaneous, right? So here's the thing, is that we need to prepare to pass each one of these modalities. And I would say that one of the most neglected areas of study is the note-taking skill component. A lot of interpreting schools focus on sight, simultaneous, and consecutive, and they completely ignore the importance of note-taking skills. And then there's confusion about interpreting activity versus effective exam preparation. What does that look like, or what does that mean? Where you're delivering renditions, you're getting feedback, you're providing analysis, either self-analysis or analysis from your team members. You are grading your renditions. You're doing repetitions of those same exercises with the goal of constant improvement on those exercises, so that you're delivering at a very high rate of success before you move on to other exercises. And it's one of the reasons why I love the 3-step method that was developed by Virginia Valencia and InterpreTrain, because this is certainly something that is emphasized with that learning system that she's developed, that she and the InterpreTrain team have developed. Some other reasons: preparing for the exam as if it were a language exam, not an exam on interpreting skills, and an overemphasis on just drilling vocabulary words. When we go in, we are tested on our ability to interpret sight, simultaneous, and consecutive. And then a reticence on the part of exam candidates to allow themselves to have their renditions evaluated by their colleagues. There's a lot of colleagues that I've met that simply don't like the idea of having colleagues listen to them, critiquing them, and then evaluating them. And I believe that that's a huge oversight, because frankly, by the time I went in on exam day, I was already comfortable with the idea that I was going to be listened to and evaluated. And my attitude was, I can't wait for you guys to have a chance to listen to my rendition, because it's going to be a winner. That's the attitude that I went in with. And preparing with the team gets you in that frame of mind to develop that confidence, right, in yourself, that you're going to deliver a winning rendition. Now, there's also what I call the que sera, sera mentality. That's based on a famous song by Doris Day, que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. I hear this from a lot of interpreters, that they go and they take the exam and they say, Tony, I'm just going to go, whatever happens, happens. I'm going to put it in God's hands or whatever. I prayed about it. And frankly, I just don't think that that's enough. And it may lead, once again, to an exam failure if you've got this mentality going into it. You want to know that you've done everything that you can to prepare for success on the exam. And then certainly there is exam day anxiety that I've seen in a number of my team colleagues and others, in which they go through a fight or flight response during the exam. And that means that they get the cotton mouth, their voice becomes shaky, they start to sweat profusely, they start to completely lose, they have a response of fear rather than having calm, confidence, and clarity. And once again, one of the things I appreciated so much about Virginia Valencia's classes this week is that she really spends a lot of time on breathing exercises and getting grounded before jumping into the activity of interpreting. And I believe that this is very important to develop those breathing exercises and other things that you can do to develop calm, confidence, and clarity heading into a very stressful exam situation. And once again, every now and then my presentation seems to get stuck. Now, the question is, why should I invest in the team-based approach? Now, some of you might be sitting here thinking, wow, Tony, this team-based approach sounds impressive. So now, why should I invest in the team-based approach? Why should I do this? Well, number one, it's a proven method that has delivered results. At this point, working on a team with team members or leading and coaching teams, I have 10 success stories. 5 of those are full-time court interpreters right now. And 8 having achieved success with the state and 2 with the federal written exam. The team members succeeded where other methods failed. It was so exciting and rewarding for me to hear of interpreters who have done all of these incredible programs and materials and classes and whatnot. And unfortunately, they didn't experience the results that they wanted, but they did the team-based approach and they succeeded. And then not only have I been able to coach for exam success, I've also been able to coach a candidate for success on a job interview. And I have that in a testimonial from one of my team members, Gisela Quevedo, that I'll share later. So here's what I want to say to each and every one of you, that there's not a better time than right now to focus on preparing for your exam certification, because you've got the time, the opportunity exists right now. I believe very much in a proverb that goes like this, that if you want something that you've never had, you have got to be willing to do something that you've never done. And another proverb I think that goes along with that is that the definition of insanity is simply doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting the different results. And that's unfortunately what I see a lot of my colleagues doing. So composition of a team. How is a team made up? Each team is going to have 5 team members. They're going to be selected based upon their skill level, their background, their training, and their experience. And a lot of this is going to be information that we're going to gather from the survey questions that you complete. We are going to need you, or need our team members to be available for weekly team meetings. We're talking a weekly team meeting, and on top of that, 3 team practice sessions per week, and then 3 days where you are committed to doing some amount of solo training. So what we are talking about here is a 7-day-a-week commitment to exam success. And frankly, I believe this is what it takes to be successful. Number 3, team members will learn how to give and receive feedback to each other. That's part of the coaching that Zenab and I will give, is that we're going to teach you how to give and receive feedback, because I believe there's an art to it. I believe that this is something that you learn how to do. You learn it by trial and error. You learn it through experience. You learn it from other teachers and mentors who give phenomenal feedback, and you just simply learn from them and you apply their methods to giving and receiving feedback. And this is extremely important because feedback poorly given can undermine a colleague, and we certainly don't want that. Number 4, team members will agree to share resources, ideas, and anything that will serve the team. That's really the team ethos. The more that you invest yourself in the success of your team and your team members, the more successful you will be. And that's point number 5, actually. And your coaches are going to help with the selection of those teams. All right, so now your next question, I'm sure, is, well, Tony, so what happens during those weekly team meetings? Number 1, the focus is on preparation. Every week, you're going to meet with your team members. You're going to review a simultaneous, and a consecutive exercise that you're going to be working on for that week. From those exercises, you're going to determine troublesome words and phrases. You're going to work out acceptable renditions for those based on authoritative sources. Those exercises then are going to be decided upon and reviewed by the team during that weekly team meeting. So the team reviews the document as I mentioned. There is going to be a focus on note-taking as well. So I don't want you to think of this as just, well, we're just going to focus on simultaneous, and consecutive. And why am I emphasizing this so much? Because frankly, 3 team members that I've worked with that I've told, you need to focus, okay, you're doing great, but you need to focus on your note-taking skills during consecutive. 3 of those team members failed to pass the exam because they failed by a point or two during consecutive. So I just want to assure and ensure that this does not happen again. So we will focus on note taking just based on experience. That team assignments and practice sessions. So the team practices are scheduled during that team meeting. So that, as I mentioned, you've got interpreters A, B, C, D, and E. So interpreter A is going to team up with either B, C, D, or E. And the team meetings can happen with either 1 or 2 team members. And I encourage meetings to be scheduled morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on availability. So during that weekly meeting, it's the review of the materials. And then during a weekly meeting, one person will be selected to deliver just a model rendition. If during the week, an interpreter is really shining with their rendition for the week, at least a couple of paragraphs of a model rendition will be delivered by different team members as a way of demonstrating what a good rendition sounds like. Now, the team decides to proceed with new or continue with the same material for the week. The weekly meeting focuses on planning and preparation for the week. As you see, planning, preparation are key throughout. And then your coaches are going to provide you with leadership, guidance, and advice based on their practical experience with the exam. Now, what happens during those weekly team practice sessions? This is the essential activity. Everything else is in preparation for those team practice sessions with your team members. It's going to be a focus on delivering renditions and getting feedback. You are primarily going to be delivering in consecutive and sight modes. The simultaneous is going to be primarily the feedback that you're going to get from your colleagues is going to be based on your recordings of simultaneous. It's difficult to deliver a simultaneous on the spot and then be able to listen to your rendition and to follow along with the script. So you will be learning how to give and receive back. We talked about that. You are going to be delivering renditions. You're going to be evaluated based on scoring units that will be decided upon in advance by your team. There's going to be a focus on improving with each rendition that you deliver. And then a repetition is going to be encouraged. However, new exercises are going to be necessary to continue challenging yourself. It's important to continue repeating or revisiting exercises to develop a certain level of expertise with that particular exercise, even if you feel that you're memorizing it, quote unquote. And then recording. So each team member should hear their own rendition, apply the feedback that they get from their colleagues, and then continue to render again with the goal of constant improvement. And then your coaches are going to be there to help you set up effective team practice sessions. And Tony, so what happens on my own? What is it that I do when I'm not with my team? Well, on your own, you are going to be responsible for doing daily simultaneous drills. We are going to be showing and emphasizing the importance of you doing daily shadowing exercises where you're verbalizing, you're exercising your tongue, if you will, so that everything is rolling out very clear, that you're enunciating, especially if you are interpreting, let's say, into English from a foreign language. We're going to be, on your own, you're going to be doing daily vocabulary drills. On your own, you're going to practice your note-taking skills. And you're going to be recording yourself and exchanging those recordings with your team partners. And you're going to be logging all of your activity in planners and trackers as well. Because the whole idea is that you want to plan for the week, and then you want to be able to look on what you did for the week, and then again, continual and continuous planning and evaluations. You're going to schedule, this sounds extreme, I know, but you're going to schedule your life around practice. So what do I mean by that? When you look at your schedule and we go back to normal, you're working full time, then you want to make sure that you're scheduling a practice session in the morning, either by yourself or with a team partner. Look at your schedule, see if you can meet with somebody during the lunch hour and then again during the evening. And this is the kind of focus and intensity that I truly believe that you need if you want to achieve your certification goals, in particular if you've taken the exam multiple times and you've not been successful. So your coaches are going to train you on effective self-preparation and practice. 45 days before exam day, what are we doing? Mock exams. We're going to be dealing with test exam issues. We're going to be focused on breathing, confidence building exercises. We're going to talk about the exam killers and the role of adrenaline and fight or flight response. It's very important for you to understand what's happening in your brain when you experience that so that you can take steps to mitigate that or to offset that. If you don't understand what's happening, there's no way for you to know how to control it. And I believe it is something that you can control. And then this is something that I personally believe in, getting pumped up for exam day. I can talk and show you specific things you can do for that. Test day strategies. I can show you a 2-minute drill that I developed to improve your success on the site renditions, visualization exercises that are important in particular when you're delivering simultaneous on exam day. And I'm going to show you and talk about what you need to do to own the exam space and make it your own so that you're totally comfortable there, you're totally at ease, and you're totally prepared to deliver your best rendition. And the team ethos is this. And this is based on a quote by Sun Tzu, who was a famous Chinese general. And he said this: victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. Now, you may ask, how does this apply to interpreters? Well, a lot of interpreters, just go to take the exam and it's the que sera, sera, whatever happens, happens. And they haven't really done the necessary work to win that battle first and then go to war, meaning go to take the exam, okay? A defeated person is one who just shows up and then just hopes for the best, right? There's no way that you can win the war in that case. So your coaches are going to help you prepare for your own personal day of battle. Next question. So Tony, what is it that I have to do to join a team? Well, each person is going to have to complete those background survey questions. I will have everyone sign a team agreement, and in that agreement, it's just simply going to put in writing pretty much just a synopsis of the things that I've mentioned that I'm going to do for you, the things that I expect from you as a team member. There is an investment in this, and I believe it's a reasonable investment. It's based on the cost of one state exam in California, $350. So that $350 will give you 5 2-hour sessions, 5 2-hour coaching sessions with your team. And the beauty of this is that we are going to teach you how to fish, basically. We don't want you to become dependent on us. We want to show you what you need to do to get your team in place, to get it focused in the right direction, to develop the strategies that you need to be successful, and then you're off to the races. If you need more coaching than those 5 sessions, we'll be happy to revisit with you as well. One team leader will be selected for each team, and that team leader is, among other things, they're going to be responsible for setting up the meeting. So they're going to need to have a Zoom account or something equivalent for the purpose of recording the meetings, sharing documents, sharing the recordings, etc. We're going to talk about materials, and there's going to be a lot of we'll make recommendations on materials. And as a matter of fact, Virginia Valencia and Brad have developed, from Team Interpreting, have developed some wonderful materials that we recommend. So we can talk about that. And the point is that any material that you select needs to be relevant to your exam preparation for your particular exam, whether it's state, federal, or something else. All right. So now, contact information. I've got my information up here on the screen. And Zenab's information is up here. Once again, I provided the information for the Resource Center. Zenab also has a wonderful Facebook forum called the Legal and Court Interpretation for Arabic speakers. And to conclude, I would just simply ask everyone a question that I would love for each one of you to spend some time thinking about this evening. And the question is simply this: what is your passion? And I love this quote, because if you can't figure out your purpose, figure out your passion, and your passion is going to lead you directly to your purpose. The reason that I'm here this evening is that I know for a fact that my purpose is to serve as a coach and to help people achieve their certification goals. I know that that's something that I share in common with Zenab, and so that is why I believe that it's exciting for me to be joining forces with her to help the Arabic interpreters to achieve their goals. And each one of us, I think, has to be focused on what our passion is and what our purpose is, because that is what's going to help power us through to achieve our goals. And finally, I've also included some testimonials for you so that you can see that a number of my team members. This is actually quite lovely because what I did was I just simply copied these from a posting that was created by Virginia Valencia on the Interpretrain website. And so some of my colleagues just responded to that posting and they said, yep, Tony helped me. Here's how he helped me. And in Gisela's case, I helped to prepare her for success on the state exam. She was 2 of 4 successful team candidates that I worked with in the spring of last year. And then I was so thrilled when she reached out to me and wanted help to prepare for a stressful interview, and I was able to coach her for success on that interview. She's gonna start working at the courts in Orange County. This is from Gabriela Munoz. She worked on a team with me to prepare for the federal exam. And she says that working with this team absolutely contributed her passing that challenging exam. This is from Elena Walker, who is going to be actually starting to work in the courts in Orange County together with Gisela. And Elena was an interpreter colleague that I recruited to join my team because she happened to be Spanish dominant and I'm English dominant. And so we helped each other to pass the exam at the same time in September of 2017. And then this means a lot to me because this is from Liz. Liz Carmona happens to be the very first interpreter that I ever recruited to join me in the team-based approach. She said, Tony, what is it? I said, I'm not entirely sure yet, but we're going to figure it out together. And so we did, and we were successful. We both passed the exam in September of 2017, and we're currently working on a team together for federal certification. And then this is a testimonial from Virginia Valencia that just means a lot to me. Here, Virginia talks about all of the achievements that I've been able to achieve to date. And again, I'm just so blessed to count on her support as well. All right, so that concludes the presentation part of our meeting. I'm sure that you guys have some questions. I'm happy to respond. I just want to say it's 4:41 right now. I'm happy to go as long as you need to have your questions answered. And if anybody needs to leave, I understand. I know that part of the observance of Ramadan is that you have fasted all day. You haven't had anything to eat or drink. And I certainly, appreciate that sacrifice that you were making, an expression of your faith. And I appreciate the fact that you decided to spend part of your time with us this evening for those that share the Muslim faith. So once again, thank you. And
thank you, Tony. There is a question.
Yes.
How long is this training sessions?
Let's see. The question is how long?
Yes, how long?
Well, okay. So if once the teams are in place, then we would set it up so that we will have the first meeting, and then so we would meet with the teams on a weekly basis for a period of 5 weeks, and then we can get these teams launched within the next week or two, depending on the responses to the questions and setting up the teams and all those other details. So I hope that answered the question. So it's like a 5-week commitment, if you will, and at least to get the teams up and running. And then at that point, presumably the whole goal is for you to continue to work with your team members up until the scheduled date of the next certification.
Okay, we have another question.
Yes.
Our team based on one language, or would we have multiple languages in the team? And one more, how many interpreters are in each team?
Okay, I'll take that second question first. So the second question was how many interpreters on each team? For me, the magic number is 5. The reason that it's 5 interpreters per team is that so each person has a potential 4 different colleagues that they can work with. And the idea is to have different interpreters, different colleagues with different strengths, right? So let's say English, Spanish. Right? I'm English dominant. I get a lot out of working with Spanish dominant interpreters. The Spanish dominant interpreters love working with me because I'm dominant in English, right? So it works out beautifully when you've got multiple partners, you've got multiple strengths, multiple availability. You've got 5 people that can take a 500-word vocabulary and each person can take 100 words apiece. Within a matter of a week, you've got 500 study words that are created. Virginia, I think, likes to call that divide and conquer, but you've got team members that you can leverage. Now, there was another question also regarding multiple languages. I wish I spoke multiple languages. Wouldn't that be wonderful? So I can handle English and Spanish, no problem. I have, I'm working with Zenab to help the Arabic interpreters. That's about all that I know of that we can handle at this time. Now, what I can say is this: I'm happy to try to help others that speak other languages, like whether it be French, Mandarin, etc. I'd be happy to see what I can do to help, and maybe we can come up with a more defined plan for those that speak other languages or multiple languages. But at this point, we're focused on English, Spanish, and English Arabic.
We also have another, I think the other question was not about other languages. They were asking what is the language that we're gonna coach in, and how many coaches per team. There is another question too. So you have two questions.
Okay, so the language combination, when Coach Tony is coaching the team, the language combination will be English and Spanish. At this point, I haven't planned on bringing on another coach. I should say that I have worked in what I call a dual coach approach before, and it did work out well. I don't have plans necessarily to bring on another coach for the Spanish speakers. For the Arabic speakers, we will be working with Coach Zenab. And so it would be, so English, Spanish, and English Arabic are the language combinations. And I hope I've answered that question.
Are the session gonna be held in the morning or afternoon?
That's a great question. And you're talking about those weekly team sessions. I'm flexible with the time. I've always set up all of my meetings in the mornings. I am flexible though, and I can work those details out with the individual team members.
Who is gonna provide the materials? Are they Brazilian or Portuguese, and also Mandarin?
Okay, so I don't know. I don't know anything about materials in Portuguese or Mandarin, unfortunately. With respect to materials, I would love to work with materials that have been developed by Virginia Valencia, because in that case, it's not only materials, it's also a method, the three-step method that she's developed. So what we've got with Virginia is materials, method, and we've got the team-based approach. So you're hitting on all cylinders at that point. So so I do plan to once again continue the conversation with Brad and Virginia from Interpretrain, and if they want to also say a few words about that. There are other materials obviously that you can work with. I mean, I've worked with Acebo materials as well. I've worked with materials from Edgar Hidalgo Garcia. And so if you've got, let's say, if you've got some materials that you really would like to work with, I'm happy to work with whatever materials that you have. And what I would do is I would show you how to apply the team-based approach to successfully work with those materials. Does that make sense? What I would be most concerned about is just to make sure that the materials that you're working with are relevant and are appropriate to the exam that you're preparing for, right? So if you're preparing for state exam, I don't want you guys to be working with materials that are going to be things that are happening in the Supreme Court, So unless here and there you want to do something to challenge yourself, but I believe that most of your time should be focused on working with materials that are relevant to preparing for the exam that you're preparing for. Does that make sense? So, so I hope that answers the question on materials.
Another question, are you going to consider the time zone difference? Some of them are from the Middle East and...
Yeah, certainly that is in the survey question. That is a consideration that I need to have addressed, obviously. So you'll have to help me out there. If you're based in a foreign country, then I would need to know how many hours ahead you are, let's say, compared to Pacific time or Eastern Standard Time. By the way, on my team, I have partners that are based in Mexico. I've got partners that are based on the East Coast. And that's I think that's one reason why we set it up in the morning. I actually meet with my team 7 o'clock in the morning Pacific time, and I'm up ready to go early anyways. And so that means that my East Coast partners are meeting with me at 10 o'clock their time. So it works out beautifully. So all of those are details that can be worked out once the team is in place. The first step is just simply to decide, hey, is this something that I'd like to pursue? Is this something I want to be a part of? If so, complete the survey. Let me know as much detail as possible, including your availability for time and practice. And we'll take it from there. So what I would do for the Arabic interpreters, I would sit down with Zenab and we would review everything together. I'm fortunate because Zenab knows so many of you already, and so she's going to have a very good idea in terms of who would work well together in teams. And by the way, I should say this too, that just with this team-based approach, once everybody is kind of led in terms of how it's supposed to work and everything else, I've never had a problem per se of having somebody that just didn't fit with the team or didn't work out. I have had people that have dropped off for various reasons. I mean, life happens, circumstances change for people. Here's the reality too. I mean, I have to say it because it's true. For the people that have dropped off, unfortunately, they weren't successful. They didn't pass the exam. For the people that stayed, they've achieved their goals. They passed the exam. But I've never had to kick anybody off of a team per se. Does that make, so what happens if I've lost a team member for one reason or another, I put the word out, or even my team members help me to find somebody else to replace them. And we've always made sure to work with that magic number of 5. For my federal team, I have a team of 8, but there's a kind of a special situation going on there. But for the most part, I want to work with teams of 5. Any other question? Are there any questions for Zenab?
Oh, I was reading the questions, but I did not unmute myself. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Can you? So there is basically 2 coaches, you and Zenab, right? And then another question was, can you confirm that this approach will last 5 weeks, 7 days a week? And some people are asking if it's medical or court.
Oh, okay.
And okay.
Okay, so let me see if okay, so for the for the Arabic interpreters only, it would be Coach Zenab and Coach Tony. I believe the second part of that question was, can you confirm that this will be 7 days a week? What I can confirm is that I will work with the team members to ensure that you're committing, that you individually are committing to a 7-day-a-week proposition, right? But there's only so much that I can do to ensure that. So that's something that you're going to be working with your team members, right? You guys are going to be accountable to each other to maintain that level of intensity, right? There's a dynamic that happens in the team that makes it so that it's like an extra level of motivation and accountability, right? The reason that you're working 7 days a week is that you're going to be working with your team partners 3 days a week, right? So that you don't want to fall on your face when you're delivering a rendition in front of them, not knowing the vocabulary words, for example. So on the days that you're not meeting with your team members, you're preparing, right? You're studying the vocabulary, you're studying the terms, you're delivering some renditions, so that by the time the team meeting comes up, then you're already delivering the rendition at a decent level. You deliver the rendition, you get the feedback, you apply the feedback, and then you have an opportunity to meet with them again, deliver again. And the point is, they need to be seeing some progression, right? You need to be seeing some progression. So that's what's going to motivate you to work 7 days a week, I believe, right? Because you are going to want to, you're going to want to make your best effort, each and every time, knowing that it's this best effort that you make now that's going to lead to success on the exam. That's the incentive for you, right? You don't need me to tell you, hey, listen, Robbie, make sure you practice today, right? 7 days a week. No, that motivation is going to come from the dynamic of the team. And that's what we want to ensure, that we've got a team of 5 people that are committed to that level of intensity. So I hope that that answers the question. I know there was a third part to that question. It was about confirming a 7-day-a-week commitment, and then I forgot the third part of that question.
Okay. Okay, Tony, do you mind reading the chat? Because there is a lot of questions now, and I'll try to answer some of the Arabic, team members.
You're doing a
So,
great job there, Zenab. So let me see where, now I don't see the chat button.
okay, down next to the share screen on the left. So basically for the Arabic team, there will be 2 coaches, and we'll meet with you once a week. You asked who's gonna decide who on the team, and I think Tony already answered that based on the questionnaire that he provided you, or he's gonna, if you don't have it, he's gonna provide you. He will choose who will be on the team and who's gonna be leading the team. For Arabic, if you don't have materials, I will help you with some materials, Arabic to English. For materials from English, we have a SIBO's material, and we have the material that Virginia showed us yesterday. If you need something special and you don't want to be with the team, you need private coaching, I think we can do that. I think we can arrange that. Right, Tony?
I'm sorry, what was the question there, Zenab?
If they need something special and not only like a team approach, if they want coaching, we can provide that, right?
Okay, now that's a very good question. I would, for my part, I would say no. I work in teams. That's what I do. That's what I believe in. So I work with a team of 5. Whether it's working, together with Coach Zenab with a team of Arabic interpreters, or I would work by myself as a coach, but with a team of 5, let's say Spanish interpreters. So yeah, no, I believe in the team-based approach, because that's what this is all about. So I don't do private coaching, let's say.
Yeah. So, and I really will say, I cannot emphasize enough, if you are starting this, Virginia is where to start. She have great labs, she have great materials, and the team approach is mostly for people who are preparing for this exam, who already studied those materials, already know their vocabs. We are gonna run the marathon together and prepare you for the day, probably September. The exam is in September, so we'll be preparing you for that day. We want you to pass. We want some Arabic interpreters to pass. I know how hard it is for us. And I know it's hard for a lot of other languages. For Arabic, it's almost impossible. So we're gonna try Tony's approach, and I think we're gonna make it.
And I'm just noticing in the chat that there's a lot of question about, so what is the 350 investment cover? So that really was the entirety of my presentation in terms of what we would be doing in terms of setting up the teams, coaching on the team-based approach. So if you still have any specific questions that you would like me to answer, maybe by email or something, I'd be happy to do that. But I believe that at this point, the information that I provided certainly should be enough to address that question. So I'm just wondering if there's any other. Let's see. There's a question here. How does one know that I'm at the level to belong to a team and be able to prepare for the exam? Again, so if I had a group of 5 that were preparing for the exam for the first time, so I would put them in that group. If I had a group of people that were taking the exam, multiple times, 1, 2, and 3 times, then I would be much more likely to put them in a group. I hope that answers the question. And then there's a question about materials, and are we going to be providing materials? No, we're not going to be providing materials. So you will have to make the investment then in the materials. A lot of you already have materials, but you will. So the 350 that you're paying is to be coached in the team-based approach, and then we will work with the materials that you have. We can make recommendations on materials if you don't have some, or if you've got some but you think, okay, Tony, I've memorized these by heart, I'm already sick of them, I'd like some other materials, then of course I'd be happy to work with you on the topic of materials. A number of you are saying that you have to go. I understand. So for all those of you that have to leave at this point, I completely understand. I'm happy to stay a little bit longer and answer some additional questions. Let's see if I'm seeing, I'm still preparing for my 40-hour exam. I want to go on to be certified. Is this a good time to start? Yeah, I would say yes. It's always a good time to, I think this is the best time of all to focus on achieving your certification goals. And Zenab, have you noticed any other question maybe that I should answer that I haven't?
I think there is Mudaffar asking, you mean we have to purchase Virginia's materials on this material, or those materials are included in your program?
Yeah, so the 350 does not include the investment in materials, at least not at this stage. So so what I can do is what I plan to do is to discuss this with Brad in Virginia, and we'll see if we can't come up with some very attractive pricing, let's say, for materials for your group. That obviously will be up to them. The most important thing is this, is that if you've tried other approaches, if you haven't achieved your goals, what I'm offering is a team-based approach. With the information that I provided, you can certainly feel free to set up your own team and kind of see how that goes, if you will. I mean, it's certainly what I did. I set up my team, and I figured out things as I went along by trial and error, and then at a certain point of time, it worked, right? If you say to yourself, well, gee, I would much rather have somebody that's already has experience with this, knows what the pitfalls are, knows what the approach is, and can serve as a guide, I'd rather, make the investment of 350 and hire that person. I should say too, because I've got a passion for coaching, I have a passion for coaches, right? And so one of my heroes is Coach Vince Lombardi. So, and I can talk for hours about Coach Lombardi, but I promise I won't do it. But here's the detail about Coach Lombardi that's relevant to this discussion. So when Coach Lombardi was hired by the Green Bay Packers had 14 consecutive years of losing seasons. The last season before he became a coach, their season was 1 win, 10 losses, and 1 tie. They were so bad they were at risk of being kicked out of the league. Now, Coach Lombardi gets hired. And, he comes in, and within 3 years, well, first of all, within the first year, he created a winning team, meaning that they won 7 games, lost 5, right? So at the very least, they had a winning season, right? And then within 3 years, he took that same group of guys that he started off with that were in last place and took them to the Super Bowl, right? Point is, when Coach Lombardi came, he came with the idea that he was going to be able to do this before he even started, right? And I have to say that this is the level of confidence that I'm bringing to this team-based approach. If you want to be part of a winning team, if you want to be part of a team that can get you to the Super Bowl, I believe that this is it, right? Now, I can't put that in writing and make that as a guarantee, but I'm just saying that I'm starting off with that Lombardi level of confidence that this is something I can do based on the fact that I've achieved my own goals with it, and I've been able to help 10 people achieve their goals. So again, this is a passion for me. This is something that it's not just that I do, but that I do with my entire heart and soul. Interpreting is something that I do. I'm happy to do it. I'm blessed to do it. I'm blessed to serve. But my real passion is for coaching, and I'd be happy to work with a team of either Arabic interpreters or a team of Spanish interpreters, and then help others along the way as well.
Yeah, Tony, we have Amin asking, can you send us a written agenda of the program, of the training? What is week 1? What is week 2 and 3?
Yeah, I'd be happy to respond to any specific questions regarding training, via email.
Okay, and what is the success rate for enrolling in your coaching 5 weeks course?
Well, I don't know that I have a success rate, if you will. As I mentioned, I've got 10 success stories to speak of. I coached, well, okay, here's a success rate for you. I coached a team of 4 in the spring of last year, right? They were preparing for the March exam. I started coaching them in January. I had 4 team members. 2 of the 4 passed the state exam. A third passed 3 of 4 segments and missed consecutive by just a couple of points. There again was an example of, not taking seriously enough my recommendation to focus on note-taking skills, but be that as it may. Now, in that year, what I was told is that there were 20 exam candidates that passed the state exam. So that means if I had 2, that means that I had 20% of all the successful state exam candidates that I coached on my team. So I don't have a success rate. I can't say that, yeah, out of so many people, I've got so many that passed. This is not something that I'm doing on a full-time basis. So it's one of those things where with the successes that I've had and the information that I presented, you either believe in this, that I can help you, or you believe that maybe another method may be better, So, I happen to believe that I've got a winning method here, and I'm just looking for a group of people that, that share that conviction as well. When I should say just another thing too, just so that there was a point in which I didn't really have the first time that I ever reached out to serve as a coach for hire. I didn't really have successful candidates that I could speak of beyond the team members that I achieved success with, right? So I didn't have the 10 success stories. I stood up in a class and I said, I would love to coach a group of people on the team-based approach. And, 5 people stood up, and out of those 5, 2 have achieved their certification. So I've got a pretty good track record of success. Now, keep in mind, out of that 5, 1 dropped out right away because he was overwhelmed. He had small kids at home, and he just didn't keep up with it. So I wouldn't cite that as a quote unquote failure on my part, or even a failure on his part. Again, there are always circumstances that could determine whether or not a candidate passes the exam or not. What I'm going to do is I'm going to point the way. I'm going to show you a roadmap, but the work is going to be done by you, and the benefit that you're going to have is by working with a team that can help to keep your motivation level high, your intensity level high, and your accountability level high.
Okay, Mudaffar is asking, since you guys work together, is there any special price for the people who enroll in your program? With all due respect, it's too expensive if we add the material price. I just want to make something clear. You don't have to buy any materials if you don't want materials. There is a lot of free materials. Virginia pointed some of them, and we have the ASIBO. We have a lot of things online for free. You can practice those materials. You don't have to buy. And then if you have weakness, let's say in note taking, and you would like to purchase Virginia's book, or you want to attend other classes, I will tell you in my journey what I did. I started like 5 years ago preparing for this exam. I paid a lot of money, and I did hire a lot of private coaches, and I attended a lot of classes. I will tell you, like, it's over $5,000 I invested in this exam. I don't want you to do the same. I want you to focus only on the winning and the best material that make you pass this exam. There is a lot of free materials for all, like part of the exam, consecutive, simultaneous, and site. We are only coaching. This plan is only to coach you if you already have the material or you don't. We are coaching you to pass the exam from our experience. That's what we are offering here.
Thank you so much for that, Zenab. And I would say this too. I mean, for those of you that feel, gee, $350, that's too much money, and then we've got to pay for materials. What we're talking about here is simply an investment in your own success. And I wanted to go back to the slide, why should I invest and what's the cost of failure, right? So here it is. What's the cost of failure of the state exam, right? So how much does it cost you to continue being uncertified? That's the ultimate question. If I'm offering an approach that can help you achieve your goals, if you can achieve your goals, then the investment of $350 is going to seem like pocket change, right? Can you imagine, my Gisela, my colleague, reached out to me and she said this, Tony, um, I have an opportunity now to interview for a full-time position at the courts in Orange County. There's no way that I can achieve that position unless you help me to prepare for the interview. Can you help me? I said, of course I will. We set up 4 two-hour sessions. Right? She paid roughly what I'm asking, you guys to pay, right, for the 4 sessions. Now, we worked.
Can I interrupt one second?
One moment, please. And I'm sorry. We worked together. 4 sessions, right? And as a result of those 4 sessions that we worked together, she was given a job that is offering her a salary of close to $80,000 a year plus benefits. So again, I ask you, was that investment worth it? What's my rate of success there? I mean, it's at that case, it's 100%, right? So, again, I think that what we're offering is an opportunity for you to pass the exam. I believe that the investment is a fair investment. And at this point, I believe that we have had a lot of questions regarding the cost of this. I believe that we've addressed those questions. Maybe if we can answer some other questions, that would be great. If not, I can answer maybe some other questions individually, via email. But Zenab, did you say that you have another question?
No, I wanted to clarify something. I don't know if that's clear or not. We are gonna break up the amount so you know how much you are paying for each coach for every session. It's 5 sessions for $350, 2 coaches, 2 hours per session.
Right.
Okay, that means $350 are divided by how much? 5 days?
Yes.
And for 2 coaches. So how much per coach per hour? How much you're paying us per hour of coaching?
Yeah, it's a minimal investment. And another aspect that hasn't been touched on too that I meant to is that for you as a team member, with each team member having skin in the game, as the expression goes, right? Each team member is making an investment in the team, not only of time, but also of money. That ensures that you've got, once again, a high caliber of team member who's willing to make that commitment, if you will, in themselves, in the team, in each other. And so you end up just with a higher caliber team member, right? And let's face it, if this were offered for free, of course, everyone would do it. But I also know that it wouldn't be valued as much as if we charge for it. There's no question, but that I believe that at this point we've got a track record of success. I believe that Zenab deserves to be paid for her time. I believe that I have earned that as well, and I don't believe that I'm asking for anything that's unreasonable. And at the end of the day, as I mentioned in the beginning, I think it's a great thing when a group of interpreters come together. We have an opportunity to learn from each other. I believe, to have developed something unique that doesn't exist anywhere else out there. I'm not saying that I invented the team-based approach, but I did work with it to develop a very, very unique system. And I have a very, very clearly defined vision of what that team-based approach encompasses. And I've got a track record of success now, to speak of. If that doesn't resonate with you at this point, then, at the very least, you've been informed about the team-based approach. You've had an opportunity to meet some other colleagues. For all I know, you might find some team members here tonight that you can, work with and run with and work in the team-based approach with. And, let me know, just send me an email and let me know when, if and when you're successful so that I can cheer for you. That's something that I do on the Resource Center. I cheer for every interpreter that lets me know that they've passed. That's certainly my focus. I want to do everything that I can to encourage my colleagues to pass an exam, whether it's to work with me, whether it's to work with someone else. Another thing I've always been able to do is to identify where somebody has a need and find them the best person to address that need. So with some people, if they suffer with exam anxiety, I refer them to people that I believe, might be able to help them with that. So I'm not doing this because, I seek to create an empire. I'm doing this because I seek to serve and to help my colleagues with what I believe to be my particular set of gifts and my passion. So, anyways, yeah, I think if
There is a couple of questions. I'm sorry if I missed any questions, but because there is a lot of them. I'm an advanced interpreter taking the exam for the first time. Is this for advanced interpreters? Number one, and there is another question. Do you have any kind of screening tools to weed out those of us who may simply not be good enough to pass the exam, no matter what we do?
Yeah, those are good questions. So first of all, if you're at an advanced level, then we would put you in a team with an advanced, we would put you in an advanced level team. So in other words, advanced meaning, I presume you're talking about then maybe federal certification, if that's what you mean by advanced. So if you're working on federal, we would put you on a team with other candidates that are working on federal. And that's part of what we do, if you will, and that's kind of part of what you're paying for, is that Zenab and I are going to pick team members based on their skill level and their ability.
So basically, I think Tony is gonna provide those questionnaires. Those questionnaires will determine for us what are your weaknesses and like what level you will be in within this team, who is gonna be your partner, and then we're gonna, try to develop this coaching according to your needs.
Now, another thing too is that it's not only based on the survey questions. Like if I had 5 survey questions filled out and 5 people had said, you know what, Tony, I'm ready to do this. So I would be interacting with and communicating with and saying, just assuring, okay, yep, I think that the dynamics here for this particular team are good. Let's go with this. And that's why I say we're giving ourselves at least a week or 2 to launch this, just to ensure that we've got some good teams in place. Because keep in mind that I invested in your success as well. If I'm going to be coaching you in this approach, I want to ensure that I've got a team that I believe can be successful. My goal would be to have a team of 5 all achieve their success on the exam. In particular for the Arabic community, because from what I understand, for whatever reasons, maybe multiple reasons, there are some challenges in achieving certification goals. And I believe that part of the challenges could be just simply working with the right method. And maybe the team-based approach is something that could really make a difference for you. But that'll be up to you to decide.
Okay, thank you, Tony and Zenab. Now you can only create a team for Spanish and Arabic speaking interpreters right now. I just want to clarify something. Now, if you're interested in the team-based approach, and if you need us to coach you, now it's the time. I don't believe I can promise anybody the same approach later on, like next year. I don't know. We are planning for one right now. And at least I don't know if we're gonna get 5 or a little bit more, but now we have some time because of the coronavirus. We're staying at home.
Yep.
Later on, our plan will be changing. So we are giving you this opportunity to take from our experience and to warm up for the exam. But we don't promise that we're gonna do it again.
Well, I mean, yeah, nothing's guaranteed, certainly. Okay, well said, Zenab. So I think at this point, I think that we've given everyone a fair opportunity to learn about the team-based approach. If you're really serious about this and you believe that there's a burning question that you have, feel free to send us an email at that TBA coach address. Or if you have a question for Zenab, you've got Zenab's email address. So I just want to thank you. I want to thank each and every one of you for giving us this time for all of your questions. I know it's I know that this is something for that you need to make a decision on. It's something new. It's something that it's something that's very different, if you will, than what's out there. And I believe that's exactly what its strength is that it's different. There's nobody else that's out there that's doing this. So anyway, so I believe in the team-based approach. This is my gospel, if you will. This is what I preach, and this is what I do. So I'm so happy that I've had this opportunity to at least work this far with Zenab. It's been a pleasure for me. It's been a pleasure for me to have the opportunity to get to know this Arabic community of interpreters. And I just want to, on that note too, I would be remiss if I didn't say truly how much I've appreciated the support of the Arabic interpreters, in particular on the Resource Center. First of all, there's never been any interpreter that has come close to the level of support that I've received from Zenab consistently over these past 3 years. She refers interpreters all the time to the forum. She likes all my posts, which is amazing. And so for all these years, she's been such a great level of support. So I'm just grateful to have this opportunity to work with her and to try to see if we can help her Arabic community as well.
Thank you, Tony. And there is one more question. Is there a deadline for enrollment? And when do you need those questionnaires back?
Yeah, I would say this. If this is something that you think that you're interested, go ahead and complete the questionnaires. Let us know, hey, Tony, I attended the meeting tonight. I'm really interested in this. And keep in mind that, you know, it's, if at any point you feel like, hey, I'm interested, but I'm not sure, that's okay. You know, we can deal with that. And we're not going to have you sign up for something if you're not 100, if you don't understand it 100%. By the way, that was another reason why I wanted to sign interpreter agreements, if you will, with everybody, just so that everything is in writing, so that you know exactly what it is that you're signing up for, so that you're not participating in this and then kind of thinking, so what is it that we're doing, or what am I supposed to be doing? Everything is going to be crystal clear for you. You know, that's a part of the team-based approach, is having a strategy, having a game plan in place, and then executing on that strategy.
So anybody else, would anybody like to unmute himself and ask? If I missed his question, go ahead and do that.
I mean, with the question. So let's see, I am already like a certified court interpreter, and it looks like this team program will be more beneficial for folks who are preparing for the court exam.
That's right.
So can we have like a medical, because I am preparing for the medical certification, so can this work, like if I can find like a team for folks who are preparing for the CHI Arabic exam?
Absolutely, it could work. And so if you would, just send me an email to let me know about that. You know, at this point, my focus is on legal, but if I could help in some way, you know, just send me an email with those details, and I'll see if there are others who come forward with an interest, in medical as well.
And like I said in the beginning, it's one approach we're offering. There is other for Arabic that I'm planning, and you will know later about it. And there is plenty that is neutral, language neutral, like Virginia is providing language neutral, and there is other trainers. So you have a lot of choices. You are the one that gonna choose where to invest and how to do it. When I was desperate after trying all the approaches, attending classes, I think the team approach helped me. And I don't know, Yasmin, I think left. She was one part of my team. This is the only way you can find somebody at your level to give you the feedback. Because if you're teaming with like only one person and he's giving you good feedback, you don't really know that this is the right feedback or not. You have to have a team. You have to have critique from a lot more than one. You have to have somebody that is at the same level as you are. Let's say you're advanced or beginner. Beginner will learn a lot from advanced, but sometimes he will get embarrassed, like rendering in front of them. So we are trying to help you out to find the right person or interpreter that match your skills, and to improve your ability to pass the exam. I know all of you put a lot of like elbow grease into this and probably spent a lot of money. So you have to decide if this approach fits your budget, if this is what you need, or you need something else. There is a lot of programs. This is one of them. And I thought this would be good for, I'm talking about my Arabic team. This will be one of the good approaches that you will not, definitely will not lose trying. I think you're gonna win. I think from what I saw that Tony did in the past, and he proved it to you by all those testimony, it worked. People passed the exam when they did that. So it's up to you to decide. And thank you all for attending. Thank you, Tony, for having me on your team.
Yes.
And thank you, Virginia and Brad, for supporting us. Anybody else have something to say?
All right, so it's about 5:30. So out of respect for everyone's time, I think, this would be a good time to say goodnight to everyone. And I do want to thank each and every one of you for making this investment of time in us this evening. I hope that we've given you some ideas to think about, to consider. At least at this point, if the team-based approach is mentioned, what it entails, what it involves. And again, I'm very happy to report I achieved my certification goals in this approach, and I've got 10 colleagues who are certified today as a result as well. That's something I'm very proud of, and I just want to keep that winning streak going, because that's my passion. And thanks again, everyone.
Thank you, Tony. My name is Kamar. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
It's
Kamar.
a
Have a good day.
So much.
Thank you, Zenab. Thank you, Habibti.
You are welcome, dear everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Bye.
night. Thank you so
night.
much. Thank you for a wonderful presentation.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Virginia.
Virginia.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Zainab.
Thank you, Amin. Okay, we'll end it right now if you like to stop recording. And good night, everybody.